Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Dunks and Donuts. Even though it's dark out, this is not Dunks and Donuts after dark.
Don't get confused.
No, this is just Dunks and Donuts, usually in the morning.
But not in the morning, but not after dark, because that's a whole different thing.
Correct. Ryan, how are you?
Very good. How are you doing?
I am excellent. Thank you for asking. It's been a eventful couple of days. I know we did our surprise episode of the International Women's Day, so
I had so much fun with that.
It was awesome. It was such a great episode, and the feedback it received was fantastic.
Right? I know. It seems like for whatever reason that was. I don't know if it was the time. I don't know if it was because it was just like something that could be universally, and you know what I mean, enjoyed and not argued with or something like that. But everyone was awesome. Everyone was so nice. I did want to say, especially in regards to that, because she's always so lovely to us. And I don't know, you might know her Twitter app, but Susan left a really wonderful comment on that video, and she's been so supportive of us. And I'm not sure if you know her, and I can tell.
I don't have it in front of me, but yes, I do know Susan very well. She is absolutely wonderful. She shared photos of her dog the other day who had passed.
Yes.
He was such a precious boy. He looked amazing, and I loved him. And, Susan, if you're listening, we're probably going to be using photos of your dog here in a second, just so.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. I'm adding pictures of your beautiful puppy. Handsome boy.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I think this week for us has been incredibly eventful with everything we've done for the pod. I mean, we put out, what's today? Saturday, right? Yeah. Sunday, we put out an episode with Aiden. Wednesday, we had Adam's interview go up. And then we had the special yesterday. So it's been an eventful week for us.
Wow, yeah, it totally has. I kind of didn't realize it because it was all happening back to back to back, but it's been awesome. Some of these, I love that we've had an opportunity to meet so many people in the Celtics community, because I've had, just in the month that we've been doing this, I've been exposed to so much more Celtics content because of the people we've been talking to. Adam is so awesome and comes out with an article usually before every single game, breaking down what's going on. Super consumable and helpful. But yeah, I feel like I've learned so much and now exposed to so much more Celtics content that is made by people that really care. Right. Which is great.
No, and I agree with you completely. It's, obviously as everybody who listened to that Adam interview, him and I have a great relationship, a great rapport, but I'm glad we were, and not that he needs it because he's got a huge following anyway, but I'm glad we were able to give at least some sort of recognition to him because he deserves all of it. I mean,
yes,
he's awesome. And
so smart, so down to earth.
Yes. And also shout out to Aiden as well, because same with him. I mean, for being someone behind the scenes, he's just so intelligent. He knows kind of what appeals to everybody. And I mean, being so hands-on with the NBC Sports Boston stuff, it's also incredible. It's just like, we've been blessed in the short amount of time that we've been doing this to talk to the people we've talked to.
So lucky.
And even like going back to our first couple of episodes with Richard White, even, I mean, obviously he is notoriously loved by Celtics Twitter.
Of course.
And he's just an incredible person. I mean, we'll get into this here in a minute, but just the way he approaches every game, win or loss, like with the stats, with the facts, it's just, he's a great guy.
Somebody had commented on, I'm pulling it up right now, but somebody had commented on the Richard White interview and said something super similar to what here it is. Shout out to Newbie Normie. They said, man, D White's dad is pretty much exactly as I expected. He's so level-headed. And I was like, right, we said the exact same thing. And he said he is over Zoom and Discord too, exactly how he is on Twitter. And then he said, great podcast. Thank you. But he confirmed, just so down to earth, didn't have to be so nice and patient, and deal with kind of our like awkward start off. And yeah, we're just super lucky.
Yeah, we've been, that's the exact word I think is lucky. Mm-hmm. And shout out to everybody who's been supporting us since day one.
Yes.
You guys are the reason why we do this. And it means a lot to us. Like Ryan and I, obviously we started this for fun. We never expected this to become what it is, but just seeing the feedback from you guys and seeing what this podcast has done for the community in such a short amount of time has been awesome. And I can't speak for Ryan, but I think she'll agree to the sentiment is that as Dunks and Donuts grow, we want to be able to grow the community. Like we want to be able to promote it to something so much more than what it is already. Yes. And that's tough because of how amazing this community already is. And
we wouldn't be able to, God knows you and I wouldn't be able to just be out here, drop my phone, but we wouldn't be able to be out here just talking about anything.
Right.
It's totally the Celtics community that's made any of these conversations possible. Anyone in the Celtics news scene being so approachable and so willing to invest their own time and energy into having a conversation with us, just kind of out of the kindness of their own heart because we both love the Celtics is
right.
Badass. I could not be happier, even though I really didn't expect it to be this. I figured it would just be you and I shooting the shit about basketball, and it's turned into something, just wonderful. I think potentially to be able to use it as a platform for other people in the community that are doing such awesome stuff that otherwise I know I wouldn't have heard about. So heck yeah, I'm happy. It's all been a whirlwind, but it's really cool.
100% agree. It's kind of like taken over. Like I've had so many things planned, and then it's just like, oh, we got a guest. Oh, we got this. Oh, we got this. Like, okay, like let me rework my schedule. And
I know, me too. Like, oh, okay, yeah. It's like I'll bake in the middle of the night for 2 hours. It's fine. And it's like I know we could easily, push things off or not do them, but it's so exciting that I'm like, no, I'll figure it out. I'll replan. I'll schedule something. I'll do what I have to do. Like, it's just, So it's great. Heck yeah, we are here.
It's again, before we continue, just one last time. It's just, this has been a blessing, just the support we've received so far. And we're excited to continue providing this content for everybody. And, I wouldn't be here without you, Ryan.
And vice versa.
Actually that's a good, I've had a couple people ask me about you, right? Like, what's Ryan like? What's her story? So why don't you, I know we, in the very first episode, did it, right? And obviously with the Celtics on a road trip, there hasn't been a ton of community events in the last week. So why don't you give everybody a little bit of a background about you?
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. We could both go back and forth. I'm trying to think. It's interesting because I can't even imagine a year ago, even if I would never have thought that I would ever be willing to, first of all, be part of a podcast, let alone a sports centered podcast. And not even because I didn't love the Celtics a year ago, obviously, but I'm a very by nature emotional person, and I kind of come at basketball and everything from a more emotional standpoint than I do logical frequently. And that's kind of always been how I am. Then I'm trying to think pretty much how I really got invested in all of this and how my life took a pretty rapid shift about, well, almost 5 years ago now. But I moved back I'd gone to school in New Jersey. I didn't finish school. And then I ended up living in Philadelphia for 7 years or so. And not that we have to talk in depth about this right now, but it is part of the story. I developed a pretty serious drinking problem. I was like, I'm an alcoholic. Like, both of my parents are alcoholics. They met in AA. They're both in recovery and have been sober both of them have been sober for more than 30 years. Well, my mom definitely has. I haven't talked to my dad in a long time, but, and so I ended up developing a pretty serious drinking problem in Philadelphia after I dropped out of school. And I lost up until I was 24, I lost a lot of years to that. And I ended up having to move back to Rhode Island. Well, I ended up having to move to Rhode Island. I'm originally from Massachusetts and Maine, but my mom was living in Rhode Island. So I had come home because I had just completely destroyed my life. Like, every bridge I could have burned, I burned. And I had to, like, tail tucked between my legs, come home. And I ended up getting sober. I ended up getting into a rehab program and getting sober. And that was right before the pandemic started. And then the pandemic started, and with getting sober, and I know there are at least a few people that listen that have also been in AA or NA or anything like that, or just gotten sober on their own, whatever program, it doesn't matter. But I had to figure out what I liked. I had no idea. For 5 years, all I liked was drinking. That was the only thing I enjoyed doing. I thought it made everything better. It made cleaning my apartment fun. So I didn't have any concept of what I enjoyed outside of getting messed up. And so I started kind of like a little kid, and, just doing a bunch of stuff. I started cooking and baking, obviously, for the first time ever. And obviously ended up watching a lot of TV, which included getting involved in watching the Celtics, because I've always loved basketball, but was never a massive NBA fan. I grew up outside of Boston, so I was a Celtics fan by nature, and my mom's a huge Celtics fan. So, but up until the pandemic, I really hadn't spent any time watching modern day since 2008, anything the Celtics had really done. And I just became completely obsessed. It was one of the 2 or 3 things that ended up sticking, that I was trying a bunch of things, and I just got completely obsessed with how the community operates. Like I said, I'm a super emotional person, and it's a super emotional fan base. For better or worse, but frequently for better. Everyone cares so much all the time. And so frequently it's for good. And I just loved that. And then on top of that, I got to watch people, especially Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, play basketball. And I said especially, and then I forgot of course, Marcus Smart. Although painful, I think that's why. I think it's a subconscious thing. But
that was painful, I think, for everybody. So,
yeah, it was awful.
So you're not alone, but I don't mean to cut you off. Continue.
Oh, no. But what about you? What is your Celtics story? What's your...
Yeah. So for me, and I covered this briefly during the Adam interview. Obviously, that was his interview. I didn't want to hijack it. So I was a high school dropout. I mean, quick story. I got assaulted in high school by some of the other students. I won't go into details of what ended up happening, but I dropped out. I was like, I'm not dealing with this. And then, for years, similar to, well, I can't say similar, right? Because like I have family members who have struggled with addiction. I've never struggled with it, so I can't say I understand the struggle. But in the similar vein, there was 6 years of my life after dropping out of high school where I just did nothing. I mean, I played video games. I worked like minimum wage part-time jobs here and there, but I never, like outside of video games and trading card games, I never really had a hobby.
Yeah.
And obviously when I was younger, like when I was younger, late 90s, early 2000s, up until 2008-ish, 2010, I loved basketball. I loved sports. And then high school came around. I fell out of love with sports for a while. And then, I never really got back into it until the Isaiah Thomas years in Boston. And I've talked about him before on this, but I'll shout him out again. One of my best friends in the whole world, his name is Saul. So if you're listening, buddy, shout out. We met playing trading card games, and I'll tell a quick story. About 4 days after I met him for the very first time, there was a major tournament up in Connecticut, and I didn't have a license or a car at the time. And dude is like, "Hey, do you want to come with me to this major tournament?" And I'm like, "Sure." So he picks me up at 8:00 in the morning, and I'm like, I am traveling to a different state 3 hours away with this total stranger. But no, we became best friends.
Don't kill me. If he doesn't kill me, we'll probably be best friends.
Yeah, exactly. And we joke about it to this day. But yeah, so the Isaiah Thomas years, he would invite me over. We'd watch games together. We had this tradition, like we would watch every playoff Patriots game together. And then it transitioned to the Celtics playoffs, and it was just such an awesome experience. And that kind of reinstilled my love into basketball. And then came the part where I decided I wanted to get my life together, go and get my GED, go to college, and want to become a sports writer.
Yeah. Which is awesome. Also, it's like it takes so much courage and to go back and get your GED and then pursue anything further. But to go back, especially because there are so many things that can happen leading up until you're 18 years old that make going to school every day incredibly difficult. And it takes even more courage to then be able to go back and say, I want to, for myself, clean up what I feel like wasn't really finished. That's awesome. Not to cut you off.
No, you're good. I was 23 when I started college. And it was a total accident. So I got my GED, and none of my immediate family has gone to college. So for me, it was like, I'm going to apply to a school just to see if I get in.
Mm-hmm.
And I only applied to one school, and it was like, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And it happened. And so it was like a whole thing. But yeah,
Everyone must have been so happy for you and so proud of you.
yeah, it was definitely some of my family was confused. They're like, what are you going to go to school for? Because like, I never had a plan.
Yeah.
So, but it definitely is like bittersweet thinking about it.
For sure.
But yeah, and then came I want to do sports writing, which came to the whole, first just starting to write about the Celtics with an internship and then getting involved in Twitter. And that's kind of just like it all kind of just snowballed.
Yep.
Like I started, okay, start writing about the Celtics and their playoff runs. Okay, now go hang out in Boston at bars, get some drinks, get some food, and watch the games at Boston bars. Okay, now start using Twitter and promoting that content. Mm-hmm. And now it's go to games, write articles, do the podcast. Like,
yep,
it's just been such a snowball effect. And looking back, and anyone who knows me knows that I have complained about time and how long it can take. But of course, I've definitely been blessed with the whole, like, how fast I've gone from 100 followers to I just cracked 3,000 a couple days ago.
Yes.
I
think it depends also, like, on the where you are. I think on Twitter, it's super, it can be super challenging to, I mean, not to be annoying about it. It's not really so much like I'm starting a community or anything, but to start from zero and have to jump in and interact. And it's not a video, you know what I mean? So it's like, and not to downplay TikTok success, because I could never, especially the level of critique and eyes on you. But with Twitter, you have to say something that other people deem either funny or smart. And if it's not one of those things, it's a very bad take, and that doesn't foster a community. So it's like, to actually be able to establish a substantial number of people that are active too, that respond to what you're doing, that are engaging with your content. On Twitter, it's difficult to get in the thousands. Yeah. It's a challenge, especially on sports Twitter. It's so saturated. So
yeah,
it's just it's impressive. I go between like wanting to give us flowers and then wanting to be like, okay, chill out.
No, and like, I think it's okay for us to like pat ourselves on the back, right? Because you said it is like growing a following from something that's already established, like having to like insert yourself into something that people have already made a name for themselves in,
yes,
that has already been established before you got there, is so hard. It's like, the best way I can describe it is like you transfer schools, like you're in middle school or high school, you transfer, and like trying to break into a new friend group is almost exactly what it's like. And I was never good at that.
Me either.
So, so the fact that like it was something we were able to do is impressive.
Yeah, it really, and it takes resilience for sure. There are definitely days where you're like, dang, this all might be, it's easy to get negative about it because it is just you. So if you just stopped doing it one day, what would be the difference? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you and I both, it is something I'm very proud of, that we do have such a interactive group of people, both of us. And a lot of the people obviously cross over because of the side of Celtics Twitter that we're on. But everyone is so supportive and so nice. And, it just could be not as great as it is. It could just, there could be so much more negativity, and it's really easy to be a person on the internet who feeds into that and plays into that, and then it becomes what they're doing all the time, you know, and then everything they say, it ends up being like that. So yeah, I think it's great. I really do. I think you being able to go from where you were, especially being, because as a woman, it's easier to, I will say, I don't get taken seriously unless I prove to someone that I deserve to be taken seriously. But I will say that I could post a picture of myself, and that will make more people come to my page versus a guy talking about sports, you know? And I mean, like, I have to utilize that in a responsible way, so to speak. But being a guy and trying to break into, hey, I'm another dude talking about basketball, it's just not easy. Difficult in a different way.
Yeah, and you definitely hit the nail on the head there. And I was having a conversation with somebody about something similar the other day, where it's like, for you, for example, like I'll use you for example. Like you just said, like you can post a photo, and you're not posting that photo for men to come and like look at your page. You're posting it for yourself. You're excited, or like you have your joggers, like whatever it might be.
Exactly.
But like men are still gonna come and be men,
no
right?
matter what. There's not that,
Like,
and how you that's exactly it, is how you choose to engage with that will set a standard, so to speak.
And that's like the whole part of it, is just because you do something doesn't mean that this other group is allowed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I 100% agree with you, but also taking it back a step further, talking about like our mutuals that we have, like, because we have a lot of crossover in our sides of Twitter. It's just like, I think our friend group in general is just absolutely so one of the best friend groups ever. I mean,
I love them so much. I love them all so much. I just don't have a bad thing to say about anyone.
There's none, right? Because like, and we're not going to mention names. We're not going to leave anybody out, and we don't have all the time in the world, right? But you know, we probably met about 80% of them at GRD's last watch party, and like the photos that we have, like everyone just looks so genuinely happy.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like we wish everybody could be there, but some people don't live in Massachusetts. Some live on the other side of the country, or
but I will say, even with that, like they still participated afterwards, like seeing the pictures. Even that was like, people were like, oh my gosh, that looks like so much fun. Like, I wish I could be there. Like, which even then people could be kind of like, ugh, about it. You know, we all can't really be jealous without showing it. And there's something about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that just speaks so much, such loud volumes of how far you and I have come. Because I remember we were some of each other's very first followers.
I know.
Like back when I had maybe 150 and you had like 150. And then to watch each other grow from that to where we are now has been also a blessing. And it's just, this has been honestly like one of the best things I've ever decided to do was get involved with Celtics Twitter.
Yeah. I have to say that really, because I can't even believe I haven't mentioned this. Maybe I have once, but I mean, Celtics Twitter is why I bake. You know what I mean? Celtics Twitter is why I do what I do every single day. Like, Celtics Twitter is why my bills are paid. Like, and Celtics Twitter buys my cookies. You know, I mean, it's just, they show up for, they're just, it's a really emotional, and I mean that in a good way, a really emotional community that gives a shit. Like, they give a shit. and it's so cool. And our friends are awesome.
Yeah, and you're not wrong, right? Is like just, and that's kind of what I was trying to hint at, I guess, in a very long-winded way, is that it's just like the support we get for whatever it is we're trying to do. My articles and me trying to break through into media, you and your baking, which, speaking of, I'm going to need some of those mixed berry scones.
I know. I'm so excited for the spring menu. It's kind of weird to think about, but when you think about baking, there are like popular seasons and then there aren't. And the holidays are so popular. And then you get into January and February and nobody's trying to really spend, $80 on 24 cookies, understandably. So I'm super excited. The scones will happen.
Yes, they need to happen. They sound, I mean, the whole menu looks great. So for anybody listening, go check out Ryan's spring menu. But another part of the community that I've noticed, at least, I don't want to take credit for it, but I want to hope that you and I have had some sort of impact on it. And we'll shout him out again, Richard White. I feel like has had a huge impact.
So
the Celtics lost 2 games in a row for the first time since November. We lost by 1 to the Cavs after giving up a 20-point lead, and then we lost to Denver by 6. And both games, like, everybody was like, the world is ending. It's season's over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ESPN was saying Tatum's MVP campaign is completely over. And, like,
it's been such a difficult 3 days. I'm like, oh my goodness, we are so spoiled. It's crazy.
Yeah. 1.5 games of a stinker for Tatum, and he's no longer MVP. All right.
And fine. Also a stinker being still like 15 points. Like,
yeah. No, yeah. It's unreal, like, the standard he gets held to, which, like, fine. We just kind of have to live with that at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've noticed is everybody was, like, super pissed off about the 2 losses. I understand losing isn't fun.
No.
But then you have, like, me, you, Richard White, all posting these facts and statistics and saying, like, hey, here's what it is. Like, we're fine. Like, I remember one post, someone was like, oh, well, this is the Celtics record against the top 4 teams in the West.
Yeah.
Are we concerned? And you're like, I don't know. This is Denver's record. Are we concerned about them?
Yeah, they're like against the top 4 teams in the West. The Celtics are 2-5, and I was like, Denver is 3-5 against the top 4 teams in the East. Do you want to play this game? Like, what's the point of that?
Right. And then the craziest part about all of it, though, is most of the community, at least that I've seen, and I don't know if it's the same on your side of Celtics Twitter, outside of our, like, overlap, everybody was, like, coming, I don't want to say to my defense, but coming to the defense of, like, hey, logical thinking skills, we're okay. And
which was so nice to have that, like, backup of being like, yeah, everything is okay.
Like, for the first time seeing it, like, oh, like, everyone's actually, like, going at these 1 or 2 accounts that are being, like, overly critical.
Yes.
And everyone else is like, hey, like, yeah, like, it sucks we lost, but we're fine. It was so refreshing to see. And, I think, obviously, Richard White had a huge part in that.
He always does. He comes in and he's such a logical, calming presence to me. It's just like, no matter what's going on, no matter how bad anyone is spiraling, I just, like, I can go check his account and he's just like, all right, let's just look at the numbers and go to bed. Okay. And I'm like, I think that's a good idea.
No, I'm with you. And it's just, like, and it, like I said, like, he had a huge part in, like, kind of changing the perception around losses. And I'd like to think that we've had something to do with that too, just because, like,
Yes.
You've said it yourself, and I'll agree with you. You are 100% the number one Celtics apologist.
Always.
And I just try to use logic. I mean, I can't say I don't get emotional sometimes in some of my responses, but I think we all do. But like for the most part, I try to use logic. And
well, I think that's the thing is like when it's such a invested community and everyone is so dedicated, it's hard not to at some point be vulnerable with how you're feeling about it, which, and when you think about it, it's one of the only things in life that you can be so dedicated and so invested in and have absolutely no control over. We don't play basketball in the NBA. We don't play in the NBA. We, no matter what we say or think, how the season goes is how it's gonna go. Like and I don't, of course, fans matter, but there's a reason we're not in the NBA. There's a reason I'm not an NBA coach or a WNBA coach. And it's because they know what they're doing. There were some conversations that were around Jason Tatum and I think it might have been the first loss or maybe it was the second loss, where he had said that it was the second loss. He backed off. Whatever, it doesn't matter. He backed off and kind of let Jalen have his incredible night of 41 points and 14 rebounds. And he had kind of said, that's what as Jason Tatum on the Celtics, if I know that someone else is having a good game and I'm not having a good game, I'm going to give them the basketball.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, that apparently to a lot of people means that he doesn't care, which I think is so backwards. I'm like, no, that's someone who really cares. That's someone who doesn't care about his own stat line, that will indeed throw the MVP conversation out the window because he wants his team to win. Like, that's a leader. I'm so sorry. That's what somebody does when they really care about something, is they put the needs of the team above his own personal victories. Like, it was nice to see so many people come to. I love seeing Celtics fans come to the defense of the players because we can all get so roped into shitting on them.
Yeah.
For no reason. Like it's odd to me because it's like we're fans, but geez. Sometimes it doesn't seem like we like the Celtics at all, guys. So when we can make those, or at least a little bit in our own center of gravity, right? Change that conversation. Because I know that maybe I can't say for sure that we have a positive impact, but I do know that if I were spewing negative shit, that would have a negative impact.
Oh, yeah.
And that I know for sure. And so I think keeping that understanding, kind of like, I mean, to follow what Joe Mazzulla said, I think it was the last playoff run when Jalen had a really bad game. Someone said, what did you say to him in the locker room? And he was like, I told him that I love him and I trust him and I believe in him. I mean, that's what you would tell someone that you love and care about and believe in that maybe didn't have a good day. Like, you wouldn't call them names or tell them they're washed. Like,
yeah, you're right. And like, I've had to learn that because when I got emotional about loss, I would fight with everybody, and I had to learn to let it go with the facts. Like, and you're right. Like, I think showing, and that is one of the reasons I love Joe Mazzulla, because he's not afraid to
say that.
Yeah, he's not afraid to be that coach. It's like, hey, I'm not gonna always, like, I'm gonna be a hard ass, and like practices are gonna suck, and we're gonna like work super hard, but I'm also not afraid to tell my players, hey, I love you guys. Like,
Yeah.
You're having a bad day. It's fine. You're allowed to have bad days.
Exactly. And I'm going to defend you. Like, I'm going to defend you to the media. I think, even though, no, they don't need someone to defend them, I do think we all know that it feels good to have somebody say, hey, shut up. Don't be mean. It always feels good to have someone do that.
No, you're not wrong. And this whole thing, like, okay, so the way that I see it is something you actually retweeted earlier today. And this kind of reminds me of Joe Mazzulla. It was a video of a capybara getting hit on the head in like a little steam enclosure. And you tweeted out, to be a clueless capybara getting lightly hit on the head by a piece of bamboo in my steam enclosure. And I just retweeted, I go, out of context, I still feel like this is something Ryan would say. But that just like whole video reminds me of Joe Mazzulla. He's just
it's so true.
He's like, it's like I'm in my lane, I'm thriving, I'm like moisturized, whatever that meme is. Like,
yes,
that is Joe Mazzulla.
Yes, it's so true.
And it's just
this.
No. There's so much I could talk about the Celtics community as a whole. And it's just like we talked about at the very beginning of this episode. The Celtics aren't in town. They're on the road and there's nothing going on, but like the fact we're still able to talk for 45 minutes just about how great the community is and how it's impacted us and given us a platform to hopefully give other people a platform.
Exactly.
It's just like, you don't get that.
Before we move on, I do have one more thing because I can't not possibly mention this. And if we hadn't had the 2 losses, I would have hit on this earlier because this was the best part of my entire week. So Drew Carter, when we were playing in
it was Denver.
Yeah, it was when he said it was in Denver. It was the game before though that I had first said when Sam Hauser made a 3-pointer, I had said Daddy to be for 3. And eventually it ended up tweeting Drew Carter and saying that he shouldn't miss the opportunity to say that if Sam Hauser makes a 3. And he did it. And it was the best moment of my whole life. And I ascended. It was incredible. That was awesome. And I just want to make sure I mention that because if I don't, I will be so mad at myself because that was awesome. And shout out to Andrew because he's the reason that happened. He made that happen. And we love Andrew. So that was badass.
No, that was a cool moment. For sure. That was a super cool moment. Because like you were like blowing up my phone. You're like, oh my God, like it happened.
Like you have no idea what's going on right now. You need to answer your phone.
You get like 7 text messages that are like all incoherent caps locks, like
Jared
across the keyboard. And then it's like, he said the thing. And it took me a minute. And then I had to go to Twitter and I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay.
It's like you have to go and Google Translate my stuff. And you're like, what is the context of what she's saying?
It's like we'll have to make like your own dictionary.
I know. Different misspelled words. Like my autocorrects everything wrong. And not because like, oh, like damn autocorrect. I mean, I've typed words so incoherently so many times that it autocorrects to just gibberish.
It's like XTTCX37ZY.
I love you mean
the Celtics?
Yes. I think we can.
Like none of the letters match, but we got there.
We got there. We know what she's going for.
Yeah. No, for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I could gush about the community forever. And I can't believe, at this point we've been just gushing about the community for, like I said, 45 minutes. So at this point, usually we would have part of our guest's interview in the episode, but I feel like this one in and of itself deserves its own special, like, full upload.
Yes.
Ryan and I were super lucky to get Pete Rogers, the guy who designs all of the after win Celtics jerseys, which I know everybody listening absolutely loves the jerseys.
He's so amazing.
Yeah, dude is awesome. He was so cool, so nice, super humble, super down to earth and understanding.
He was so easy to talk to and so willing to just be like, yeah, I wasn't even planning to be this dude. And everyone we've talked to has just been so humble and so like, I didn't even know this was going to happen to me. I'm just some guy. And I'm like, well, to me, you're one of the coolest people ever. So,
right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, and Pete Rogers definitely fits that description. You know, so he has, you know, his whole shop banner 18 where you can buy the jerseys that he has on sale. But for everybody listening, we'll link that in the descriptions of the video and the Spotify link. And then keep an eye out on the YouTube and on the Spotify. We're going to release the full interview with Pete Rogers so that you guys are able to kind of just take it all in and understand just how incredible he is.
Yeah, and what he did to get to where he is just really interesting sort of little story that turned out to be, I mean, how he can stay at home with his, I'm not sure, his little kid and be a stay-at-home dad and make awesome jerseys. So
his story is incredible.
We're so lucky.
We've been blessed. And coming next week, we actually interviewed Ian and Angelo from TikTok. For anybody who doesn't know, Ian is, I would say, the face of Celtics TikTok. He makes a ton of really great Celtics content on there. Mm-hmm. He has almost 100,000 followers. So that's what we are looking forward to next.
Yeah, and if Emily is listening, that or anybody that was there for World War III of Celtics build, I think he is the person that made the original sort of like, for anyone that isn't on TikTok, because I'm not really on TikTok, I post baking videos occasionally, but I don't look through any of the videos. But he's the one that does just that incredible text breakdown of Celtics games, and it's super informative and cool. But yeah, Emily will remember Celtics build, so I just wanted to shout out to Emily.
Yes, shout out Emily. She's awesome. She's been one of our biggest supporters as well, so we definitely want to.
She's everything beautiful in the whole world. I love her so very, very much. She's awesome. She's a really good person.
But yeah, outside of that, guys, keep a lookout for Dunks and Donuts. We can't really spoil much else outside of Ian's interview, but trust that Ryan and I have some really big things in the work. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see her facial expression right now. She's like ready to burst at the seams with excitement.
I have, every time we talk to someone, I have to tell them that it's going to be difficult for me to not tell everyone about it.
Yeah. So
I just like have to like sit on my hands, and I'm like, okay, I won't type, and I'll do my best to forget about it.
Yeah, like I'm not even going to look at the computer, just like what is going on. So,
but yeah, we do have some really, really awesome interviews and people and community activities that are really cool.
Yeah. So guys, again, thank you for tuning in to Dunks and Donuts. We will be back next week. So don't forget, bring your coffee, bring your donuts, and we will be back. Later.
Bye.